So here's our apples. We're gonna go ahead and wash those up and core them and slice them. So we've got half the apples chopped up in this grain bag here. I only got half of them done. So there's about 15 pounds roughly of apples in here. We're going to use about 25 pounds total. So to this, I'm going to add about a cup of chopped raisins. Here's the raisins. There's about 2.5 cups there total. We're going to split it in half in each batch because I have to do it in 2 batches. So we're going to go ahead and put half of those into our bucket of apples. Also, I'm going to add some allspice. I'm going to do about 3 or 4 pellets of that in there. Call that good. I think there's 5 in there. Also, I'm going to add some whole cloves to it. So I'm going to add 4 to each batch. And then I'm going to add 4 cinnamon sticks to each batch. And then I'm going to tie this up and I'm going to put it in some boiling water and we're going to boil it for about 30 to 45 minutes each batch. Okay, and then when you get your bag all tied up, you just drop it down into your pan with, I got 2 gallons of water in here. That should cover my apples. And we're going to just bring that up to a boiling point and we're going to let it steep for about 30 to 45 minutes each batch. Okay, so it's boiled or simmered in the hot water for about 40 minutes now. We're going to go ahead and remove that from the heat. And we're going to let it cool off a little bit. Now I'm washing and sanitizing my bucket. So anything that touches the must or the cider or whatever you want to call it, after it's been pasteurized, that's what it is pasteurizing when you boil it. Has to be sanitized. So we're going to go ahead and wash and sanitize everything up and get it ready to go. Now I've got a sterilized strainer on top of a sterilized pot here. I'm just going to take the bag out of here and set it in there and let the juices drain out of it a little bit. You don't want to squeeze the bag. Just let it drain naturally. We'll let that do that for a little bit and then we'll be back. Now that I've removed the bag from the cider, I'm putting it in the sink and I'm filling the sink with cold water to help it cool off faster so we can pour it into our bucket. We don't want it too hot because it'll melt our bucket. So we're going to cool that off and then we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we've removed our strainer and our bag of apples and we've discarded the apples. And we're just going to pour what little juice we got out of that into this. And this is still warm, it's not cold, it's still warm. We want it warm to melt our sugar. We just wanted to cool it off so it didn't melt our bucket. Okay, so we got our clean sanitized bucket. I'm going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of yeast nutrient, 2 teaspoons of pectic enzyme, and a 1/4 teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite. And 6 pounds, we're going to start with 6 pounds of brown sugar. We're going to go ahead and dump all that down into our bucket here. So I'll just take my clean sanitized scissors and cut the sugar open. Dump that down in there. Do that with each bag, and then we'll sprinkle our chemicals on the top of that. You don't want to add too much sugar at first. You can always add sugar, but you can't take it away. So that's why we're just starting with the 6 pounds. The recipe actually calls for 10 pounds, but we're going to do 6 to start with, and then we'll measure our gravity on our hydrometer and see where we're at and go from there. So I'm just going to sprinkle these. I'm going to measure these out, put them on top, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got all that down in our bucket there. So now we're just going to take our cider mixture here, and we're going to dump it over the top and stir in the sugar. So we'll just grab this and dump it over that. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and repeat that process again with the rest of the apples into the pan, and then we'll just dump that in there too when it's ready. Okay, so our second batch is cooled down. We're going to go ahead and pour that in there. We're going to stir that with a sanitized spoon. We're still about a gallon short on water, so I'm going to add a gallon of water to it now. Just got my water in my pan here. I'm just going to fill it up to the line here. So we got 5 gallons in there, and we'll mix that up. Okay, so there it is. I've actually taken a hydrometer reading. It's at 1.060, which is a little low. So I'm going to go ahead and add another pound of sugar and take another hydrometer reading. I want it to be around 1.075. So we'll have about 10% alcohol on this one. So I'll do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so we added 2 more pounds of brown sugar here. And we've taken another another reading on our hydrometer. We're at 1.070. I know you guys can't see that, but 1.070. We're going to call that good for tonight. That's going to give us a 9.2% alcohol potential. So we'll just leave it there. Okay, so now we're going to add our sanitized lid and airlock to it. Get that on there here. Snap our lid down. And then we're going to let that sit overnight. And then we'll check the SG reading on our hydrometer again tomorrow. And then we'll pitch our yeast. Okay, so it's been 24 hours later. We're going to go ahead and take the lid off here. Take a peek inside. We'll give that a stir up, and then we're going to add our yeast to it. For this batch, we're going to use Lavalin EC1118. Okay, so we're going to take 1/4 of a cup of water at about 90 degrees. I don't know if you can read that or not. We're going to add our yeast into that to rehydrate it. So we're going to go ahead and add our yeast to it. We do have a tablespoon of sugar, 1/4 cup of water, and then our yeast. And then we're going to cover it with a piece of saran wrap, and we're going to wait 15 to 20 minutes. So it's been 15 minutes. See, the yeast is all rehydrated. So we're going to take our lid off here. And then we'll just add our yeast to our must here. And then we'll cover it back up and we'll check on it tomorrow. Okay, so here's our cider back in the brew room. We're just going to let it sit for a few days and ferment. Our homemade cider. We're going to go ahead and open it up. It's been 8 days. what she looks like here. Get it open. And there's our cider. We're going to go ahead and take a hydrometer reading here. Everything's been sanitized. Okay, so our hydrometer showing 1.050. It's fermenting kind of slow, so we're going to go ahead and rack that into a carboy now. Okay, so here it is, just racking down into a carboy.